Community Advisory Committee's Community Advisory's monthly meeting. I'm trying to find the agenda, but I can't find that.
There it is.
Hi, Carolyn. Hello, David. Hello, everyone.
Hi.
As a matter of fact, these Zoom calls kill me because I'll be on one Zoom call and, you know, at what time is it now? So 12:59, I was on another Zoom call that had nothing to do with what we're talking about now. So my mind is decompressing and recompressing, just so you know. So can somebody take the roll call?
I would love to.
Okay, please. Thank you.
Oh, excuse me 1 minute. I have to mention that Jen Dirks is on, but she's over in the attendees.
Okay, let me promote her real quick.
Thanks, Anna.
Okay, it looks like she is over. Okay, Carolyn Schofield.
Present.
Edward Lopez.
Present.
Gary Johns.
Present.
Tom Summers.
Here.
David Harris.
Here.
Jen Dirks.
Here.
Matthew Vasilakis.
Here.
Secretary Webb.
Here.
Vice Chair Hammond.
Here.
Chair Price.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Thank you.
And Chair Price, we do have a non-agenda public comment.
Well, let's go ahead with that. That's next on the agenda.
Okay. Todd Blueshell from Baker Electric submitted, I just wanted to quickly let the CAC to know I enjoyed the February 9th webinar and I'm excited to see things progressing. Keep up the great work.
Well, thank you.
And that's everything.
Well, thank you very much. Are there any items to be withdrawn or reordered on the agenda?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay, well, let's move into the agenda. The update on the executive CEO process. I think Rita's going to give us an update.
Sure. So I hope everyone received the update from Alliance Resource Consulting that I sent yesterday. I followed up with an email today letting everybody know that because we will have 2 representatives from the CAC in the interview process, we'd like to go ahead and discuss who those representatives should be. I don't have a timeline to report. I know about as much as everyone else does from the given reports, but I have been asked to try and get our representatives. Also, last month, the CAC voted to have Matthew represent the CAC in the ad hoc committee. So that could be a place to start.
Okay, well, thank you. So Matthew is our primary representative and what we need is a second representative.
Correct.
Okay. Would anybody like to become the second representative for the CEO recruitment process?
Can I ask about time commitment on that?
Hi, Jen. I would love to be able to tell you an answer. I just don't have much information. I can certainly take that back to the consulting firm and let everybody know, but I know that probably has to do with wanting to commit or not.
Yeah, I'm not going to commit without that clarity, sorry.
I understand.
Rita, are you able to confirm roughly how many interviews it would be? Because I think that it sounded like there weren't too many interviews and that might help us make some assumptions about the time commitment at least.
Tara, let me see if I can get an answer for you guys really quick.
Well, in the memo, it said there were 5 candidates who will be in the first round of interviews.
I'm being told 2 to 3 interviews.
2 to 3?
Well, I don't, as far as
For the final interviews, there'll be a list of 2 to 3 candidates advanced to the final interviews with the board, and I think those are those 2 to 3 will be the ones that they'll ask for our input on, right? Not the list of 20, 35 or whatever.
It might be interesting, though, to have our input on the 5 semifinalists before the final round of interviews.
I guess I would frame this as like, assume it's 5, so 5 hours right there, plus an additional, I mean, just to be considerate, like, well, generous, I guess, like 5 hours of deliberation. So think of that as a 10-hour commitment, not including scheduling time. What the timeline for this is, end of month completion for interviews or into March?
If it's helpful, the final interviews are set up for March 2nd from 8 a.m. until 1 p.m. for those final 2 to 3 interviews. And I do believe that is when the CAC would be and staff would be involved.
Thank you, Kimberly. So yeah, I would say budget for 10 to 15 hours for the remainder of the month, if you're interested.
Is that kind of what you budgeted, Matthew?
I mean, I budget all my time for SDCP. So.
I wish I knew how to budget time. That has eluded me. Okay, so I don't know what we need to do now. When do they need an answer from us, Rita?
The recruiter asked me to try to get 2 representatives today.
Okay, so we got one, and Jen, you don't have enough information for you to make a decision.
Yeah, I think it's going to be too much time, and I don't want to commit to something I can't put my heart into.
Right. And this is just for the alternate, right? Or
no?
There will be two members involved on the interview panel.
Okay, I just so everybody know, I really don't want to say this, but I could be the second if that's appropriate.
I'd support that.
How's everybody feel about that?
I know Price.
Good.
All right, thank you, Eddie.
Yeah, there goes my time budgeting process just flew out the window. Okay, well, thank you. So I guess so that takes care of item number 5 on the agenda, right?
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
Oh, actually, before we go on, I had also offered to the committee that if anyone has any questions, I'm jotting some down now, but if you have any other questions about the process, I can bring them to the recruiter.
One question I have is that, you know, the list of 35 as well as the list of 5, at some point when it's not, you know, crucial to have those names not be known, will we be able to know who those people were? You know, like maybe, you know, after this process is done, would it be okay to release those names to us so that we could see kind of what their thought processes were and, you know, the pool that they had to, the pool of people they had to pull from? I assume they're going to say no because they don't like to, you know, but we got to ask it anyhow.
I'll get an answer for the committee.
Yeah.
Okay.
I would say my experience with this type of process is that everything remains confidential. Some of the people who applied currently have jobs and their employers don't necessarily know that they've applied. So it's usually reasonable that the process is entirely confidential, so it doesn't compromise anybody's current job situation. But okay. I think Rita should still ask.
Will do.
Okay.
And if there's any other questions, you all know where to find me.
Thank you, Rita.
Sure.
We appreciate you. We appreciate you, Rita.
Thank you.
One more question. Did the consultant give a reason why they chose not to come to this meeting?
Just that she was unavailable.
Okay. All right, thank you. The next item on the agenda is an update on membership expansion from National City and unincorporated San Diego County.
That's me. Can we move on to the next slide, Kimberly, please? Thank you. So I'm so happy that we had a great response after we extended that deadline. We got 31 applications. So those applications have been sent on to the board representatives for National City and to the county, and they'll have until the 16th to provide their recommendations, and then we'll bring those nominees to the February 24th board meeting. And then our plan is to have them start on March 11th, our next CAC meeting. And we are organizing the onboarding process, and we're offering, scheduling now some Brown Act training that will be open to all of the CAC, but that'll be part of the onboarding process as well.
Okay, cool.
Any questions?
Well, I have the same question I had for the last item agenda. Will these names be known to us? Or are we're not even in this process anywhere about who we might like on our panel?
I can see how it was structured. I typically for any recruitment, unless the applicants know that their information will be shared, that it's not. And in this case, it's up to the board member to choose the appointees for the CAC. But I'll double check on that, Eddie.
Okay, thank you. And the reason I'm asking these kinds of questions is because I would like to have the feeling of empowerment for the Community Advisory Committee members, right? To feel like, we're actually a part of some of these processes that we're going to have the benefits or consequences of. So that's kind of why I'm asking these questions of knowledge. Okay, so is that it?
I see a hand from Gary.
I just want to reiterate what Rita said at the end there, Eddie, that when we were appointed by the board member / council member from our city. Mm-hmm. And the same thing's going to happen with these people. There's really no input to the process. It's up to, I guess that'd be Supervisor Lawson Reamer for the county and whoever the board member is from National City.
It's Mayor Sotelo Solis.
Yeah, I understand that. But I still said what I said. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda, please, ma'am. Discuss update on power procurement bid evaluation. I have no information on this. So who will be presenting this to us?
I think that's me, Chair Price. Good afternoon.
Thank you, Mr. Osborne.
Good afternoon. Happy Friday, everyone. I think we mentioned this before, teased it a little bit maybe. So we're kicking off our outreach process here and revamping and kind of finalizing an official evaluation criteria for energy projects that we look to contract with. So want to bring this by you all today. Our target is to take it to the March board meeting. So I know we've got the February one coming up, but we've got 6 weeks or so until the March board meeting. So that's the timeline we're looking for here. And again, this is kind of a working draft, I guess, or kind of it's our current evaluation criteria that we've used kind of on an interim basis. We're looking to finalize it. So want to run this by you all, and certainly happy to discuss and take feedback and comments today. But I realize there's kind of a lot in here as well. So I'm happy to work through it and step through it. But as you all have comments or feedback, happy to receive that from you directly or through Rita in the next week or two, as you guys have time as well. So it's kind of a discussion and overview today with, happy to take comments, feedback again, but then also happy to continue the discussion over the next couple of weeks as well as we finalize this.
Do these subject matters each have their own slide?
Yes, they do. Yeah, this is the...
Okay, and you're getting ready to go through those?
I will. Yes, sir.
Okay, so I'm gonna try to set up. Go ahead.
I'll try to, again, chairperson like you, I'll try to budget my time here well, but if you guys want me to just speed up, if you want me to slow down, you just let me know.
Well, I think, personally, I'm really interested in the community benefits and the workforce items. I know we wouldn't have too much input or knowledge of anything else, maybe environmental stewardship, but community benefits and the workforce development, I think, are crucial to who we are and what we do.
Yeah, completely agree. And I think so we can even probably get through the first couple here a little quicker. And then, but yeah, definitely want to make sure we allow time on those slides as well. And there are even a couple kind of prompts and discussion questions for us to get into, and where we're looking for your feedback as well. So just to kind of set the stage overall, I think we want to set kind of an official policy here with this criteria and kind of a scoring rubric, if you will, as we look for long-term energy projects. So, really meant to be, used when we go out for a solicitation and we get back tens, 20s, hundreds of project reviews for new projects. How do we sort them? How do we score them? And how do we prioritize what we're looking for? So this is really, primarily going to be used for new build long-term contracts. That said, it does also exemplify pretty well, right, what our mission, what our values are, what our priorities are as an organization. So, this will also, drive a lot of our procurement efforts, but, we may not use this to score every short-term project here or short-term contract here or there, but, obviously drives our overall procurement goals. And then we'll use it, formally to score projects as we have them through the official RFO process for long-term contracts. Want to note, obviously, we might make changes here and there, solicitation by solicitation, right? Some of them are saying we're just looking for projects in a certain area, or we're just looking for a certain technology, or just looking for something specific that we may, tweak them down the road. But for the most part, this will be kind of the default, unless the solicitation itself calls for something a little different. And then, as you can see here, the evaluation criteria have these kind of 6 areas, and then we'll get into those 6 here in just a minute. So I think, unless there are any questions, we can jump to the next slide. Great. I think this is relatively straightforward. Project location, obviously we prefer local, right? So high priority for us, local. And this is, again, consistent with what we've done in the past, and local, and consistent with our local RFI, which is kind of our evergreen procurement here. Is that for renewable energy projects, anything in San Diego or Imperial counties is going to be considered local and given high priority. And then energy storage, it's tweaked a little differently just because we, on the storage side, the capacity attributes are so important. So it's San Diego local RA, which is, generally speaking, located within San Diego County, but it needs to be interconnected electrically to SDG&E's transmission grid. So that's the high. Next level, obviously Southern California, and elsewhere in California, and then out of state. So kind of high to low here. I think that's pretty straightforward, but happy to take questions or thoughts here as well if y'all have any.
Is there a reason why Riverside County is not part of San Diego and Imperial counties because of its proximity to us?
No, let's see, no certain reason, Chair. I think the way we broke it down was, had to draw the line somewhere, and kind of between the high, medium. Certainly, right. We'll take feedback and entertain suggestions if you all, want to push to make, adjacent counties or something, part of the high category. I think we, could entertain that and discuss. Obviously going to be well, I think we'll be collecting feedback and taking a lot of this to the board for their discussion, obviously, for their decision. But I think
hands raised, Byron.
Yep, I see those popping up. Feel free to call
Matthew,
them.
you want to ask a question, sir?
Yeah, question, comment, and thank you, Byron, so far. Well, for everything always, but like for the presentation thus far.
Yeah, my pleasure.
So I guess my two comments right now are, I'm glad that we're pairing San Diego Imperial counties. I think that's very important. There are a lot of good job opportunities out in the Imperial Valley specific to geothermal. And I guess my other thing is, you know, I would also like to see maybe a very high category that's within like the urban, within kind of like the urban fold of our jurisdictions, because there is a bit of a distinction between like utility scale backcountry, like think of a Hakamba project, versus like solar panels on a library with like hyper local job and workforce development opportunities. And so, you know, I understand that there are some cost considerations that need to come with that, but I think identifying like in urban fold projects, which I know can get a little difficult with the county's incorporation into SDCP now and, you know, their jurisdiction, but I do think that I don't know if it's like a within built environments or like local distributed energy resources, something like that, just to kind of make clear, like, you know, we do want to prioritize more than just like the broad swath that is the 2-county region.
Yeah, I think if I may answer that or give my answers to see how smart or dumb I am. And to your point, Matthew, in my mind, that would fall up under a feed-in tariff type process or a community solar type process that I think should have different benchmarks than what we're talking about now, I think, right? It would be like a totally different program with different priorities because of its size of projects. And, you know, but to your point about the county coming in, you know, it may be some pretty large projects, but I think this is particularly for utility scale type stuff. And now, Byron, you can tell me how right or wrong I was.
No, I think great points. I think, Matt, I appreciate the point, and I think that's something we've kind of discussed and there's some nuance I think involved in this, right? And I'm not saying it's perfect as is. So I appreciate the discussion. I think previously we had a category, kind of the highest category was within our service area explicitly, right? And I think as it was originally just the cities, I think that kind of made sense, right? Kind of within city limits. As we expand to the county as well, then it starts merging with the kind of the San Diego County and, you know, Imperial County. So I think that's probably kind of where we are now. I think certainly we can consider, you know, whether it's in location or elsewhere in the scoring criteria, right? Kind of whether it's brownfield versus greenfield or, you know, within urban settings or not. I think that's certainly understood and agree with. I think that preference. And I think Eddie, Mr. Price, sorry, Chair, to your point, I think as well. Probably tough to put, you know, 500 acres of solar, right? Obviously within built environment, but I think there are plenty of rooftop opportunities. There are plenty of, you know, I mean, standalone storage on its own, certainly much smaller footprint, right, than solar as well. So I think, there's kind of will depend on solicitation by solicitation, but I think there's certainly a way for us to kind of work this in. So appreciate the comment, and we'll take that back. I see another hand here as well. It looks like
Tom Summers. Tom, you have a question, sir?
Yeah. Thanks. We're not giving you a chance to even get started here, Byron. But I think what
I've got all afternoon, so you guys we can stay as long as you want.
I perceive that these 4 boxes they're not concentric circles. And that there's plenty of other criteria involved in site selections for projects. And perhaps you'll get into this later in your presentation, but I perceive that utility scale, like Chair Price mentioned, is a major criteria, but also proximity to the main line, transmission lines. is probably also a very important criteria in this overall picture. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's right. And broadly speaking, again, we don't usually control for that necessarily or select for that, but in some ways it kind of self-selects, through the interconnection process the developers go through, and kind of the cost associated with their interconnection upgrades or their interconnection process that impacts the price. And so usually if it's miles and miles away from interconnection, then in some ways it kind of self-selects for itself through the kind of the value and the price of the project itself. So that kind of from our perspective self-selects, even though I know the developers do go through a lot of work to try to find locations that are close to the transmission that won't require either upgrades or long gen ties. So yeah, that's right. Yeah,
Mr. Lopez.
Byron, was there any consideration in terms of this criteria of project location of, and this is perhaps along the lines that Matthew was alluding to, sub-criterion of a project identified or located in a disadvantaged community, a DAC?
We do.
DAC could be in both urban and non-urban settings.
Yes, and that's one of our discussion points here in the community benefits section. So, yeah, so great question, and we're on our way there. Thank you. I'm happy to move on, but want to make sure we're good at least on high level here location.
I don't see any more hands.
Okay, great. So next one here is quantitative value. Again, there's a lot that goes into this, and it does vary by resource and by kind of type of project we're looking for. But high level, it's how much does it cost, right? It's and what's going to be the cost overall, and then what's the value to our customers. So it depends on the structure of the deal, as I said, depends on the products, depends on kind of the risk profile of the project, and estimated delivery profile and all that. But again, this is a pretty big one for us. It's not always, I guess my point is, it's not as easy as saying the contract price says $20 or $30 or whatever, right? There's a lot that goes into it. But kind of as we run economic analysis behind the scenes, it's kind of okay, it may be more expensive PPA price, but we may get the capacity attributes, which are worth a lot, or it may be in a location where we expect the energy revenues to be higher from this project, so it's worth paying a little more. But just broadly speaking, this is kind of a holistic, all-inclusive, quantitative valuation of the project, and obviously, pretty important to what we're looking at here as well. Any questions on this slide? All right. If not, project development, again, similar in that it's got a lot of moving parts, and kind of, again, project or technology by technology or solicitation by solicitation. We're really looking at what's the likelihood that this will get built as expected on time, as pitched to us, right? So you can see a number of different factors here, and this is kind of a subset, I guess, of all the potential factors that might go into it, right? But it's kind of, where are they in the interconnection process? Have they established site control? Is it a reputable, experienced developer who's been doing this for 20, 30 years, or is it somebody who's just kind of getting up and running and maybe new to it? Not to say that's would exclude others, but kind of definitely factors in. If developers telling us, yep, it's going to be online on X date for Y price. How seriously can we take that, and how certain are we about it? So again, project development, kind of generally speaking, we'll rank them, but then give them kind of high, medium, low scores toward this as well. I see a hand.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask in terms of questioning their longevity in doing this, and this might be a naive question, but I do know that we're trying to prioritize kind of some new ways of doing things as well. So how does that conflict with the prioritization of, if we're just going with people who've got a lot of experience, and I know this is one of the criteria here and not the only, just want to make sure that there's a balance to the fact that a lot of these might be more risky in that they've never been done. And that's the beauty of being able to push things forward.
Yeah, really appreciate the question, and I think it's part of the balance that we always try to draw, right? If you're looking at new technologies, new developers, encouraging new companies to get into the game, right? It's one of those self-perpetuating things, right? If you only select the experienced people, then exactly you don't allow new entrants. So I think it kind of in some ways depends on the solicitation maybe, or what we're looking for, right? If we know we need a project online in 18 months and, you know, there's really no room to slip, then we may weight this a little higher, right? As far as the, you know, developer experience and their team. I think also in a lot of ways, it's not necessarily just, you know, straight up looking at how long the you know, companies existed, right? It's kind of who's on their team, who are their consultants, who are they working with, what do they understand? So there's a little more there as well around just kind of getting a feel and asking some questions as well around, hey, you know, do you all understand what you're doing? You know, how involved are you in the process? And you know, certainly there are plenty of folks we work with as well who, you know, haven't done it as much, but we're happy to work with them. So it's not like we exclude people just because they're new, but, you know, certainly if we're under the gun for projects to be online by a certain period, it you know, may factor in more than it might other times.
Thank you.
Yeah, my pleasure. And great question, thank you. Any other questions on this one? All right, let's keep moving then. So here is, I think one of the two that Chair Price, you noted here, community benefits. We've got kind of our proposed high, medium, neutral, low score on this, but also, you know, want to call out a couple of specific questions down at the bottom as well. That again, happy to take thoughts and feedback here, and also as you all have a chance to kind of percolate on it, to follow up with feedback and suggestions for us. Again, either to me directly or through Rita. So, you know, I think the high score here, and this is kind of has been our criteria kind of rubric over time, and also has been based on what a lot of other CCAs do, is to give preference for projects that are located within a DAC. Also then, you know, has completed community outreach and demonstrates community benefits. Again, community benefits, there is, I think the definition of DAC and the definition of community benefits, I think, are pretty vague. Well, DAC isn't sort of vague, but those are the open questions I have in my mind. Do we want to define it as a DAC? And also, how do we define community benefits? And can we come up with, you know, specific examples of community benefits, right? So I think those are kind of the open questions for you all to consider. I think also, when we debated this as well, obviously we have preference for location within a DAC, but at the same time, do we want to exclude from a high score projects that are not in a DAC, but may make an extraordinary effort, right, on the community benefits front? I think whether it's, you know, contribution to the community, local hire, all those kinds of things, I think if someone can go above and beyond and demonstrate why, if a project or developer can do so, I think we may consider that. But I think until they demonstrate, again, extraordinary benefits, they'd be in the medium otherwise.
And my question to that is, who would determine an extraordinary demonstration or a regular demonstration? I mean, is there any criteria that they must attend? Because, you know, normally from community of concerns standpoint, which I would love to change the name from DAC to community of concern, you know, there's a term, you know, best efforts, and that usually gets them through. Like you know, we did our best efforts. You know, we put it in a newspaper or something. So I think we have an ability and an opportunity to actually impress upon some of these people exactly what we mean, if we could determine what we mean, right? Because this right here, it sounds good, but it's from my perspective, it's still rather vague, right? And that a potential project would look at it like, yeah, okay, well, we'll put something in the black newspaper and the La Prensa and the Voice and Viewpoint, and that's all we're doing, right? Yep. So I think we have an opportunity here to kind of raise the bar to this conversation.
I agree, Chair Price, wholeheartedly. And again, I think, you know, your first of all, your comment about, you know, community of concern versus DAC as well. I think I would happily entertain that conversation, right? If we want to change it to, you know, I mean, and this is SDCP specific, right? If we want to name communities themselves, however we want to define within our our service area or locally. And then if it's outside of of San Diego County or Imperial County, then maybe just say, DACs otherwise, or we can define that, I think, however we want. But again, that's the first question, right? Is Cal EnviroScreen DAC, is that good enough, or can we do better? So I think certainly open to your feedback on all of that. And then the second one is well about how to define community benefits, right? Whether it's medium or high, is it good? Is it great? Just in general, developers frequently will say, hey, what can we do, right? How can we demonstrate?
Right.
So I know other CCAs have, I think we're at least intending here to set up kind of an SCCP foundation, right, of sorts, where we can take community contributions and then, apply those to projects and local clean energy projects. That would be one option. I think we're open to other considerations as well. And I think this is really where we can direct a lot of that, right? If a developer who's not local to the area says, hey, what can I do, right? Hey, here's our list. Here's 10 things. Here's what we're looking for in our communities. Here are the communities, and here's what we're looking for. I think this would be a great opportunity for us to direct them to do that. Because otherwise they, again, if they're not local, they may show up and say, we want to contribute, but what's the most meaningful way to you? So I think feedback from you all in this section would be great.
Okay, we got a couple of hands up. I'm not quite sure the order, but ladies first. So Carolyn and then Gary.
Well, I wanted to make some comments just about data. So two cities, San Diego and Chula Vista, have climate equity indexes with scores. And we can see from those what lines up with the DAC. But DAC is a very specific measurement. It's based on two things, Cal EnviroScreen, and also the definition of low income, which is another issue because San Diego Gas and Electric, their CARE FARA programs are based on national records about income levels, which just don't apply in San Diego because of our cost of living.
Yeah.
And so we know that there's the county AMI, or annual median income, and then you can select different percentages of it. But the problem that I see that we're confronted with in Chula Vista with the DAC communities is that you have to have both the low income and you have to live in the community, instead of we're going to select an income level and not prescribe where you have to live, and then look at the program that we can roll out to people. And so I think those are the main things that I see. But I mean, the other big one is that community members really have to have the choice about what their benefits are, because they're all going to be different. And housing is a huge issue, and I think probably energy efficiency measures too. Thanks.
Great. Appreciate that. And yeah, certainly agree. Again, not my decision, but certainly I think as we work with you all and recommend to the board, right, I think we're all kind of receptive to definitions that can be improved, right, to make sure we really are meeting communities and identifying communities that the most appropriate way for us, and also meeting them with the benefits that as you said, that they want, right, not that we just decide. So appreciate that.
And I think one thing that's very pertinent to the conversation that Carolyn was having is that these field trips that we've begun from the community advisory committee, like going to Imperial Beach and going to these communities and actually physically looking at and physically finding the communities of concern. So it's not just based upon data by itself, right? It's like, and that's to Carolyn's point, there might be somebody on that street that's doing real well and throws the numbers off for their neighbor. You know what I mean? I've seen that, in dealing with the state of California. So, perhaps we could really inject or introduce these field trips and maybe get some more people on them, such as yourself and maybe some other people, so that we can really look at these cities. I'm quite sure, with the county coming in, they know of some areas that we know nothing about that may be of concern to them also.
Yeah, I completely agree. And so again, this is where, we'll ask you all to help us identify communities, and whether it's just naming communities, or coming up with kind of our list, or just a broader definition, right? I think there's no no rules here, no CPUC, no calendar screen.
Right.
Setting the rules. We can set our own rules, right, for this scoring group. So fully appreciate that.
Gary.
Yes, I'd like to pose a hypothetical question here, and imagine we rewind the calendar a couple of years back. So how would you, on this criteria, how would you score the Hakumba project?
It's a good question. Without, I'd have to go back and take a look at what we had in that kind of bid packet, I think, that we received, right? Because at the time you're really only basing it on that. Not located within a DAC, to my knowledge. So high is off consideration. I think neutral or medium, I think, based on what the community benefits at the time would be demonstrated to be, or developer, kind of what they're committing to at the time. But in some ways, I think our intent here is to encourage some of those benefits to be identified ahead of time, and again, the emphasis on community outreach as well to be done ahead of time as well. So tough to go back and again overlay this, but yeah, again, without really going through thoroughly, my guess would be a neutral or medium.
But the outcome, based on the outcome, we should have had criteria that would have flagged it as low, I think.
I'm happy to take that away. Yeah, again, that's probably part of the community outreach, right?
I agree.
Yeah,
I agree.
Okay, Tom.
Yeah, I was. I was going to wait till the end to bring up Hakumba, but I'm really curious about. I'm sure that we learned a lot from the Hakumba experience. Could you remind us again when Hakumba is supposed to come online?
Yeah, next summer or next spring or summer 2023.
Is the project itself underway?
They're permitting now. I believe they're getting ready to begin construction.
Well, thanks, Byron. I'm glad that you categorize it as neutral or above, because I was afraid that it was more of a negative experience. So while we're on this subject, are we focusing on utility scale acquisitions for our PPAs at this point, now that we're rolling in all of the residential accounts?
I think that's the purposes, I think, of this this rubric or evaluation criteria. I think would be assumed to be for wholesale utility scale projects. Yes.
Okay. Thanks.
Thank you. Byron, I think we can move on now.
Chair Price, I'm sorry. I'm not sure what the protocol is, but there's a hand raised in the attendees.
Oh, the attendees?
Yes, yes.
Oh, Lord, I'm not sure neither.
I will unmute them here.
Okay. And they get 2 minutes or 3 minutes or something?
3 minutes for Fabiola Lau. You should be able to unmute yourself.
Yeah, hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, everyone. This is Fabiola with the Center for Sustainable Energy. It's always a pleasure to hear all you do your great work. I just wanted to provide some more context for the Calendar screen conversation. So just like Carolyn mentioned, the cities of Chula Vista and City of San Diego, they created their own climate equity index. And I was part of both of those processes along with a few of you here, specifically for the City of San Diego. But those indices, like, they go further than Calendar screen to reflect very community focused on local needs and priorities. So I suggest that for the city of San Diego and Chula Vista to use those existing tools that were created with community feedback, and for the communities, the other cities and, and also the county and incorporated areas of the county that do not have an equivalent tool yet, or they might not at any point, they don't have a climate equity index of their own, to utilize Calum ViraScreen, because that is a tool that it's widely accepted for many purposes, many programs and local regional programs as well. And also, if you want to go even further in that and also, go beyond just disadvantaged communities and look at actually low-income communities as defined by the state per Assembly Bill 1550, there is a map that the California Air Resources Board includes in there, obviously for their purposes, for projects for cap and trade, funded projects by other agencies besides CARB have utilized their map that they have put together, that the Air Resources Board has put together, that overlays disadvantaged communities and low-income communities. And then you'll see that there's overlap in some, but then the low-income communities category includes more census tracts. So that's another place to look at if you want to make sure that you, there might be some communities that we know on the ground in the region, hey, they are like in our eyes, they should be considered disadvantaged communities, by the Calum ViraScreen tool doesn't, indicate that for various reasons. There's this other map that includes more communities. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate the comment. And again, happy to entertain questions here, but also again, would encourage you all to provide feedback again, both on as we think about crafting this definition of again, whether it's DAC or community of concern. And again, it may be to the discussion, the point of the discussion we've had, it may be different community by community. If we have climate equity indices for some but not all, we may want to break it out. But happy to take feedback on that, and also on community benefits as well. There, would encourage suggestions from you all, either again to me or through Rita.
Thank you.
Yeah, sure thing. Shall we move on to the next slide?
Please.
Great. So workforce development. Excuse me. Workforce development. So I think with the high, medium, low here, high is basically compliance with all objectives of our SDCPs, inclusive and sustainable workforce policy. I've got a snapshot of that on the next page, so we can refer back to it. The medium would be does not meet all of those objectives necessarily, but demonstrates prevailing wage, skilled and trained workforce, and local hire commitments. So kind of a subset of all of the explicit policy objectives, but so meets some but not all. And then low obviously is unable to meet that subset from the medium. So I think that's kind of been the working definition we've had, but certainly happy to take comments and feedback from you all on this as well. And if you do want to go, I think Kimberly, are you driving the slides? If you want to go to the next slide, just to show what our sustainable workforce policy is with respect to PPAs, we can review that here as well. So we encourage submission from respondents who employ workers and use businesses from San Diego and Imperial County, employ licensed contractors, California certified electricians, local apprentices, especially graduates of San Diego and Imperial County pre-apprenticeship programs, pay workers prevailing wage, display poster job sites, provide workers compensation, and support use of California approved apprenticeship programs. So if we can check all those boxes, then you get a high. If you meet, again, some of them, which we mentioned before, again, the skilled and trained workforce and the prevailing wage, then you get a medium. If you can't meet those, then you're in the low. So certainly happy to take comments here as well, but try to be consistent with our already approved board policy, right? Happy to take comments as we can to make, if you have alternative suggestions, but we'll have to probably part of a broader discussion if they I guess conflict with this policy. So if you have any questions or comments now, happy to take them, but again, open to feedback here too, either directly or through Rita.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to marinate on this because it still seems like it's prioritizing a subset of workers over a vast majority of people in all of our communities. So I'm gonna have to marinate on this.
Yeah, I appreciate that, and again, happy to discuss further. And I know it could be a bit of a conversation, but happy to do so.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, my pleasure. If there are no other comments, we can go
I don't see any other questions, so I think we may be able to move on.
Okay. So the final one here is the environmental stewardship, and I'll be honest. This one can be tough at times, and the intent here isn't to try to score everything based on yes, it's renewable, right? I think the baseline for us is it's renewable and zero emissions. So that's kind of the expectation. I think it's kind of the environmental stewardship above and beyond that, right? So just frankly speaking, a lot of projects in this are neutral, but again, we'll encourage them to do more. So in the high category here, you'll see that there are multiple benefits, whether it's societal, health, economic, water saving, or environmental benefits beyond, as I said, the climate and GHG reductions of renewable energy. So you're building a bunch of solar, great, you're neutral, right? Tell us what you're doing more in addition to just building solar, right? Using drought resistant methods. Are you using less water? What are you doing societally and economically kind of beneficial above and beyond? The medium, again, here is designated in a preferred renewable energy zone. I know, I'm not sure that the county has gone through that process here, but other counties have, so it's kind of an opportunity there. But also having gone through the renewable energy zone and has received required land use permits, obviously puts it ahead of just the neutral. Neutral is, no negative impacts, but also, nothing significant, kind of beyond standard development technologies and techniques. And then below, obviously, it's either in a conflict area or demonstrates, negative environmental impacts, which we're looking to avoid. So happy to take comments here, but as always, happy to follow up afterwards as well.
I have kind of an overarching question for these matrices, and these 6 criteria all have a low, and the low is like bad, right? All of them. So I'm just saying, like, this would be terrible, right? Are your lows on all these 6 criteria, are those like non-negotiable? Like, we're not taking this project on because it hit a low in one of our 6, or is it just one data point in the overall set of data points?
I'll say both. In between, we can, unless there are any other questions, we can go to the next slide, which kind of has a summary of an example of how we might use this. So you can see kind of across, how we might implement. These are all just, just illustrative or hypothetical, but I don't know that categorically we would disqualify a project just for one low, but I think you would have to have some pretty compelling factors otherwise, right, to make that the case, right? And if it has one low in any of these, right, it's going to have to be either huge value to us and or huge, community and environmental benefits, but probably tough for us to, but it's clear it's going to have some compelling either value or scores elsewhere. As you can see, just generally speaking, you'll see the greens sort of filter to the top, and the oranges or the lows kind of toward the bottom. So the more higher scores, the better. And again, unlikely, I think that that lows would make it through, but don't want to, don't want to say that categorically.
Question: Are you is anywhere in this matrix the renewable energy as well as storage, is that all packaged together? If somebody has 50% solar and 50% renewable energy, 50% battery storage, do they get a bump for that, or is there a percentage of 1-to-1 or whatever?
Yeah, that would probably show up kind of just in the overall value calculation, right, of what products we're getting and what attributes we see. And we could go out for some projects that are specifically, need to be solar plus storage, or not, or kind of maybe technology specific. So this evaluation criteria could be overlaid onto any of those. If we go out for kind of an all source solicitation, then yeah, my guess would be the technology itself and the kind of the configuration of it would probably show up mostly in the value, right? If it has more storage, then it's going to be able to shift the solar into the evening and provide more capacity to us. So that might be of more value, but would kind of show up in that calculation.
All right, thank you.
Sure. I see a few more hands here. Chair Price, do you want to call?
Oh wow, I see 3. And I have no particular order, so I'm gonna go Jen and then Tom and then Matthew.
Thanks. Yeah, I guess one other question I have is there opportunity to say to these projects, we can't take you on right now, but if you fix XYZ criteria, we will be able to? Is there room for kind of a metric? Like, I guess what I'm trying to get at overall, and I love that this group is so active in this conversation because I think this is a huge part of what we're doing with the CCA, right? Is like sourcing the right projects. And so I guess what I'm wondering is like, you can put together a matrix and you can find out that like really a lot of them are neutral and low, and you're not finding enough that are like really high. And then it's like, well, we did our best. We prioritized that, but in the end, we got what we got. Like, how much do we take a stand and say we are only taking projects that don't have any lows or that hit this standard or have a net score of X? Or like, I'm just curious if there's any pushback and like holding accountable these projects to hit these metrics.
Yeah, there definitely is. There has been, I guess, already. I don't know if I can share too much, but certainly I think it's 2-factor. One, it allows us to, in some ways, counter, right, or negotiate, right, with developers as well. Say, hey, here's a project. We're like, okay, look, we like this and this, but kind of based on our evaluation, we'd love to see a little more in areas X, Y, and Z. I think also kind of the goal here, we've been so kind of just busy starting up, right, and I think it's been so fast paced that we haven't really been able to publish, the evaluation criteria and really, communicate this ahead of time. I think the goal here would be to say, hey, you want a project with us, here's what you're going to need, right? And then so to really encourage that ahead of time. So I think it's twofold. One in, in really circulating this and saying, here's what we're looking for. So go do everything you can. Should encourage, I think, higher scores across the board. But then also, to your point, yeah, I think, I don't know that we'll have strict policies around, we won't take any X, Y, or Z, but I do think being able to, to negotiate, to push developers, which we do to improve scores, certainly is part of it.
Thank you.
Sure. Who was next, Chair? Sorry.
Tom or Matt. I think it was Tom.
Thanks. This is a great picture. Are all of these projects A through H committed projects, or are they a potential? Some of them potential.
This is just kind of a hypothetical scoring. So we've done similar ones, similar rubrics like this for a couple different solicitations we've been through, but none of these exist as they are. The way we'd use this would be to kind of score each of the projects here on the 6 criteria, and then flag them and list them, I guess, and then you can see the bolded and the green circle is kind of a usually a recommendation to shortlist and begin negotiations. So this is kind of, usually at this point is what we would take to either the board or to the ad hoc contracts committee, a committee of the board, just for their review before we move forward and start official negotiations.
So I would imagine one of the high points in our existence is the day that the county decided to throw in with us. Is that a fair assumption?
Yeah, well, we're really excited about the county joining. You mean from a project development perspective, and citing projects within our service area as well.
Yeah, I meant from just an area perspective. We've got so much more to work with closer in, and
certainly
that leads to my overriding question, which I tried to allude to it earlier, which is, now that we have all of these residential accounts coming online, how are we doing as far as providing, keeping to our 50%, hopefully 100% renewable energy numbers? Are we keeping up
We are. We'll see. We haven't finalized yet. We're still going through kind of doing the after the fact accounting for 2021. And so we haven't, again, and that's not finalized. It always surprises me. It's not finalized till like halfway through the year. But I think I can share that we expect to meet and probably exceed our 50% renewable target for 2021. And then we'll also have the 100% renewable for Power 100. So we, subject to final counting, I think we expect to exceed those numbers, or at least exceed the 50%, probably by a little margin. But that's still subject to all the compliance and regulatory reporting after the fact.
Well, thanks, Brian. And I hope you pass it along to your energy broker department there, that we appreciate the work that they're doing.
Yeah, my pleasure. We appreciate that as well. And yeah, we're doing everything we can to meet and exceed the targets, and we see them ticking up from here as well. So only more good work ahead of us. Thank
you. Matthew?
Yes, thank you. This is a quick question. In the previous slide for environmental stewardship, under the low section, what is the exact definition of a high conflict like location? Or
that's a good question. Let me follow up and get back to you on that.
Cool, thank you.
Yeah, and probably an area we should define a little more explicitly.
Yeah. I need to ask a question before we go on to David. So it's in the slide, but nobody knows what it means, high conflict. Is there a kind of general idea of what high conflict means?
So from an environmental perspective, right, I think you see projects that are either proposing to not pave, but tear down, I don't know, okay. Species or whatever. Sorry, right? Protected areas, protected plants. Yeah. You see some pretty significant. So I think in general, that's what we're going for. But probably noted that the wording could be a little better.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty powerful wording, and I think it really deserves a better definition, to Matt's point.
Yeah, understood, and we'll take that away.
Anything else, Matthew? David?
Thanks, Eddie. Chair Price, I just wanted to clarify with Byron about whether once this is approved by the board, this criteria for evaluation of these projects, will this apply retroactively to those projects that were submitted in the last round of solicitation, or will this only apply going forward?
I think it'll apply mainly going forward. Again, if we, the main purpose for this, this evaluation process is really to review projects that we get submitted to us to be able to, score them, under a common set of criteria and select them recommend to the board, and select them going forward. Certainly we can certainly run back and see, kind of as an exercise, maybe how previous contracts may have performed, but I think, broadly speaking, we're going to be using this forward looking.
Is there a limit to the number of contracts? And this is kind of to the point of this question. Is there a limit to the number of contracts that San Diego Community Power will take on at one time?
No set limit necessarily, no hard limit. But that's probably part of the consideration, right? In that, if we do have a big need, right, there is some benefit. It's not the only, by any means, the only consideration, but some kind of economies of scale too, right? And there's administrative time as well, just in going through. In some ways, that plays into the kind of the development risk also criteria, right, around either through the kind of experienced partners side of it, but also we'll usually send out a contract form, for respondents to redline potentially or review before they bid, right? So if it comes back with a whole bunch of edits, right, that's kind of part of that process as well. We say, oh, this is going to be a bear to negotiate or come to close terms on. That's kind of part of that as well.
Okay. And we have a question from the attendees. Not quite sure who it is.
Mark Mervich.
Yeah.
You can unmute yourself, Mark.
I just unmuted myself. Okay. So my question is, how does the Community Power Organization have any leverage over project developers? In other words, why would they listen to us if we tell them what we want in one of their projects?
Good question. I think broadly, they need to kind of comply with as much or as many of these as possible in order to earn a contract. Right? I think we're going through and we submit, or we release an RFO, and again, their goal is to get a contract with us to get their project built. And so the higher they score, the more likely it is that we are to shortlist them and then to enter negotiations. So a developer who doesn't take us too seriously probably isn't going to score too high on a lot of these, and may not be selected or awarded. So I think that's our main leverage, right, is in this kind of selection process, that that the higher they score, the better. And so the more they listen to our priorities and listen to again, which is really through this kind of evaluation matrix. That's I think the main leverage we have.
So that doesn't quite address my question. Why would they even listen to us? We're small potatoes compared to SDG&E or PG&E. Is there a need to find places to sell power, or what is the actual market situation?
Yeah. Well, first of all, by next summer we'll be as big as SDG&E. So we certainly have plenty to do, and plenty of leverage that comes along with that. There's tons of procurement going on right now throughout the state. Certainly we all have different perspectives, right? We all have different priorities, and so I think PG&E just announced, they've contracted for some resources in the San Diego area, but it's not probably as much of a priority for them as it is for us, right? So I think that's one area. But there are lots of development going on. There are lots of buyers in the market, but there are plenty of people who do want to sign contracts with us. And again, we have interest in working with them, especially if they're local. And I think there's some good alignment there with local projects here who look to other LSEs, other utilities, just as any other California project, right? That we value them as local, and so place a priority there as well. So I think we we're a unique fit for a lot of people who are local to our area.
Thank you. Another person from the attendees, Lawrence Emerson.
Good day. Thanks for letting me in. I have a general question on these proposals. When these companies submit proposals, do you usually ask them to list the resumes of the key players, like the project manager, project engineer, key, staff, their resumes, and that they commit to, if they get the project, that those people will be involved? And how is that evaluated? Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. Great question. And that's all usually part of the process. It's a description of project staff who have been involved and who will be involved, and their experience in developing similar projects. So that's all taken into consideration.
Okay, thank you. Carolyn?
Thanks. I just wanted to highlight that I think just having this rubric on its own is really creating a lot of discussion, and it helps us internally to actually decide what we want. It has a lot of value. It's from my teaching background, your rubric's like never finished, because you're always adjusting. So, but it also sends a message, about a really strong message about who we are. And I think it has great value just to other communities and other CCAs and operations as well. Is there like some kind of ongoing review process that you're thinking about?
Yeah, great question, and fully agree. I think this is, great for us. One, in the actual review process itself, but also as a messaging tool, right, to just make it clear what our priorities are. I'd say we're still in the walk before we run, right? We're still still trying to get it set up initially, and so we haven't outlined, what the process would be like for ongoing review. But I think that's kind of our expectation would be to, probably before each solicitation, evaluate, review to make sure, what we have been using is still what we want. But I think we can also, it probably makes sense to look at this annually or on some kind of, regular term as well, just to make sure that everything we're doing, if we have new information, new definitions, new whatever, that is kind of incorporated and kept up to date. So I don't know necessarily what the schedule will be, but I think that makes plenty of sense.
Well, thank you. I don't see any more questions. Perhaps we could move on.
That's all I've got, but really appreciate your time and review. And we will, again, please follow up, and we'll hear from you guys and see you again soon.
Thank you, Byron. We really appreciate you.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you.
So do we, discussion of potential items for board of directors meetings? Do we have anything that's hot? Quite sure we do.
Chair Price?
Yes.
I see that Gary has his hand up.
Yeah, thank you. It's really an overarching question about this segment in our meetings. I'm wondering if we've ever created an item to be an agenda item for the board meeting that was ever accepted onto the board agenda. I'm sorry to ask a nasty question, but it seems like we have tried to put things on the board agenda before and been thwarted in various ways. I think there's been a couple of occasions where we were all on the same page, and I was thinking about Assembly Bill 1139, where they were more or less moving with us independently. And so it wasn't really our direction to them. But I'm just wondering if it seems to me we don't really have a process for creating an item on the board's agenda.
Yeah, so in my mind, maybe this question here is the actual question that we pose to the board. How do we get an agenda item on their agenda? What is that process, or a potential item? What is that process? Because I believe we've sent something there and it was intended to be an action item and they just kind of brushed it aside. And so I think, to your point, we really would like to know what that process is.
I would phrase it as, I don't think it's different than what you said, but can we please have a defined process that ensures if we were adamant about it, we could place an item on the board agenda?
Well, I think if we're adamant about it, we would remove the word please, but that's just my opinion, but maybe that's something, I don't know if Rita's still on, but maybe that's something that maybe she can take back or, talk with staff about, because this has been a overarching and underlying concern from Community Advisory Committee about how, what are the processes for us to interact with the board that will be respected.
I think that was about the best phrasing of the issue yet. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Because my first reaction was not suitable for work, I'll tell you that.
I'm going back to mute.
Okay, so I think item 8, if I'm understanding this correctly, is kind of evolved into requesting a process that will be respected for us putting for us addressing the board of directors, whether it's a informational item or an action item. Correct?
That sounds good to me.
Okay. Does that sound good to everybody else?
Chair Price, if I may, I'm being told that this process will be defined at our strategic planning session. And so I'm also being told to encourage everyone to attend that and that this will be one of the items discussed.
Okay. Is that strategic planning thing going to be virtual or in person?
Kimberly, it's virtual, right?
Yes, it will be, there'll be a virtual option, but all of the details such as that are being still worked out. However, regardless, there will be a virtual option and all CAC members are invited and should have received the invitation.
Okay, thank you.
It's for the 4th.
Pardon me?
What date was that? That's for the 4th of March? Or
let me check real quick. There's 2 sessions. The first session, oh, hold on a second, is okay, I'm gonna have to go. I'll email you, and there's 2 sessions. I will email the CAC committee with the date and time of both sessions, but everyone should have received an invitation, but I will follow up just to make sure everyone knows.
Okay.
I have it on my calendar. March 4th from 9 to 5 is one, but I don't see a second one on my calendar. That's right. Thank you.
April 16th is the second session.
Yes, that's correct. Yes, we just set up the second one, and that one will be on a Saturday.
Okay, and I'd like to just interject personally, I am not a vegetarian. I like meat.
Noted.
Okay, thank you. Is there another agenda item? Because I believe we've kind of solved this one. Community member announcements. I would like to announce that there is a brand new environmental energy warrior that is being mentored for the next 18 years at a minimum by Tara. And this warrior's name is brand new. I don't even know how old he is, but he's under excellent tutelage, Strider. So I say all that to say Tara Hammond had a baby, a young male by the name of Strider, and we would like to congratulate her.
Congratulations, Tara.
Tutelage is my new favorite word for parenting. So thank you for that. And Tara, congratulations.
Congratulations.
Congrats.
welcome aboard, Strider.
Strider.
That's a great name.
Thank you, Eddie. Yeah, as I announced last month, we thought he was coming mid-March, but he came 8 weeks early. So I'm in the NICU with him now. That's why I don't have my camera on, but thank you all.
Thank you. And thank him. And thank his daddy, you know, because fathers don't really get all the, you know, respect we deserve in this kid thing. So give the father some props too.
All right, will do.
Matthew has his hand up. Anna has her hand up, and somebody else.
Yes, my quick update is that the hiring, the interviews for the community power plant consultant are ongoing. We had an additional interview today, so I will keep you all posted on where that's headed. But we're hoping to get a really good group put together to develop a community power plant for our region. So more news on that.
Cool.
Thank you for that.
Anna.
I might be like a little bit longer, although I'm not sure what their announcements are. I could go last, is what I'm saying.
Okay. Tom?
Yeah, I'd just like to say that tomorrow we're going to have a transportation expo at Gompers. Yeah, I don't know if that's in your neighborhood, Eddie, but
that's in the hood. That's around the corner. Can you send me some information on that?
I would be happy to. It's I think it's connected to University of California, but I see there's a lot of attendees. Most of it is electric vehicles and bikes and scooters and that sort of stuff. And that's at Gompers on 47th there at starting around 9 to 1.
And you're going to send me some information on that, like a flyer or a link or something?
I'm gonna email you what I have, and I'll be there with the electric VW bus.
That's the most I can ask from you, sir. Carolyn?
Yes, we are having an event in Chula Vista. South Bay Earth Day, Saturday, April 9th from 11 a.m. to 4 p.m.
Thank you. Anna?
I'm multitasking, taking notes, and I just wanted to provide a brief update on the rollout in Imperial Beach. I thought it would be of interest to the Community Advisory Committee because it's rolling out. It's been a little slightly bumpy. I highly recommend you keep your pulse on your local community, like social media. There is some misinformation flying around, and if people aren't sure what's going on, they just make things up. So for example, one of the things that was being said, and I've chimed in, is that the reason the rates went up with SDGE is because of this new project, this new, no. So it's been interesting. Of course, most people are very excited about it, very pleased, that we're able to tap into more renewable energy. And, but then there's, it's just been a little rough with people who don't understand. Yeah. So I don't know, Rita might want to chime in because I really feel if your rollout's coming, it's really important to get ahead of it.
Oh, thank you. I just wanted to thank Anna for alerting me to some of the discussions on social media. I have been able to reach directly out to people, and I think that at least stops the conversation. It's not always best to confront it in the actual thread, but anytime you see something, it's really helpful if you let me know. Also, I've had a couple of requests for an residential enrollment update so that we can look at opt-out numbers, as well as any other type of opt-up numbers as well. And since it's only the 11th, we don't have a lot of data, but the data that we do have shows that opt-outs are at a very, very low percentage. So when we actually, at every board meeting, Lucas puts together a report with all of those numbers, and it'll be broken out by city. So when he does that for this upcoming board meeting, I'll be sure and send it out to you all. But also, he's going to be presenting an in-depth report to you all next month when we have more data and can look at it. Since he's gone through this process before, he says that we are tracking for mass enrollment, which is a good thing. But I appreciate all the help from all of you to alert me in conversations that I can't always catch on my own. We were in IB last weekend, and we'll be in IB tomorrow talking to people, and the community members that I've spoken to have been extremely supportive. There has been a lot of questions, but we've been received really well.
Cool.
Where will you be tomorrow, Rita?
We'll be at the artisan market.
Okay, on Seacoast. Okay, great.
Well, thank you. And if there's nothing else from anybody, I see Rita's hands raised, but she just spoke. So no attendees. So I think without any further ado, we shall adjourn this meeting.